This is the very first on-the-table pilot project that was initiated by the Southwest Florida Community Foundation. The actual on-the-table gatherings took place October 17th. We collected 320 usable surveys from about 1,000 on-the-table participants. Because this group constitutes a non-random sample of all participants, and the sample size, which is the number of survey participants, is too small relative to the size of the population, which is the 5-county region, conclusions cannot be scientifically generalized beyond the respondent group. Even with that warning, however, the data and analysis provide some useful insights into the opinions, habits, and backgrounds of Southwest Florida residents. So on this first slide, we see some of these numbers that represent the majority. So before I get into that one, the survey had really 3 sections, include 10 questions about the conversation and the community, 6 demographics-related questions, and 1 open-ended question about personal motivations to be involved. The survey included a total of 17 questions, which were ordered by relevance to the conversation and to the community, and finally to the demographics. The survey featured most multiple choice questions, which are closed response type of questions, and only 1 open response question. All closed response options that did not have a natural order were randomized. We collected survey data using 3 different methods. 1 is hosted online, 2 is distributed print surveys, or we just sent in an email. However, we feel that we did not inspire enough all the hosts to collect as many surveys as possible right at the event. Therefore, this data may represent the majority of respondents. However, it may represent more of those participants who are willing to take more of an effort to fill out this survey. Regardless, the data shows that the majority of respondents are white female Gen Xers who are highly educated. When asked about the most critical and top priority social issues facing their community, 49% of respondents mentioned affordable housing, 19% cited problems with access to basic services, and 9% mentioned problems related to drugs and other social issues. One of the participants said regarding affordable housing and the environment are essential. Initially, I was homeless for 3 years, worked 40 hours per week, yet remained vulnerable, alone, and desperate. I experienced many horrible situations. So access to basic services as the second critical issue also came up in the open-ended responses as lack of sufficient infrastructure. In the next slide, when asked to name community problems and issues related to critical and top priority economic matters, 58% of respondents, 58% is really adding together the top 4, which is the 40 plus 18%. So 58% of respondents cited availability of high-paying jobs and higher wages. 16% said they contribute to important economic issues and causes related to equity and particularly to economic disparity across race. And 15% name causes related to lack of skill development opportunities. Just as affordable housing, concerns over availability of higher paying jobs and higher wages are emerging as economic and social disparity is increasingly exacerbated by the dominating industries in our region. Southwest Florida at the same time also experiences some growth in technology-related companies, especially connected with healthcare, which do provide some more competitive wages. However, that triggers another increasing challenge in this region related to the lack of skill development opportunities, as it's shown here as well. That challenge also came through in the open-ended responses under the code of education. So when asked about basically impact within the communities, 61% of survey participants described that residents in their local community have the greatest impact on making the community a better place to live. Majority of respondents indicated that they believe they can have a significant impact on making their community this better place they described, along with non-profit and community organizations that can also help as on second place, as well as employers and business community. And fourth place, it's with 10%, local government mentioned as well. So in this next chart, three different questions were combined in this chart, which really we had three questions in the survey around qualifying the community. Agree or disagree with having a strong sense of community. Community is changing for a better place. And third, whether or not the community provides opportunities for everyone. In general, all agree on the positive trends and tendencies along these dimensions in the community. However, only 52% agree that the community provides opportunities for everyone. Therefore, 48%, which is really a 50-50 split, respondents feel somewhat or strongly disagree that opportunities are not provided to everyone in the community equally. It gets more granular when comparing across races in a later chart. Community members who were willing to fill out the on-the-table survey were asked to debate whether the community is united or divided when it comes to addressing important goals and challenges. Consistently with previous survey results, showing men being more hopeful and more agreeable of having changes for the better in the community, men also see people being more united, 66% of them somewhat or much more united, related to important goals and challenges. Women see a bit less unitedness, however, most of the generational groups are on the opinion of unitedness. Millennials respondents showed a higher 69% support for unitedness, and only 54% of boomer respondents think that people are united when it comes to important goals and challenges. So in this next chart, which is a more complex chart, we compare various trends across races. So in the very first section, you see that over 70% across races are more hopeful regarding the future. This was one of the first questions on the survey. And as we can see from left to right, African Americans, and then Asian, and then biracial, and then Hispanic and white. So most of them, as you can see, the yellow chart says over 70% more hopeful. However, the most worried at the same time were the Hispanic population or residents. And then in the next chart, we see that how they feel regarding the community changing for the better. The most basically disagreeing were African Americans, so they feel basically in the largest percentage that the communities are not changing for the better. However, again, over 69% across all races feel strongly or somewhat strongly about the community changing for the better. And then the last chart is probably the most telling, and I mentioned it earlier also, regarding communities providing opportunities for everyone. And here, when we basically drill down to this more granular level across races, we can see that African Americans, 69% of them disagree with that. So even though the general population, when we looked at it, was still 52% said, yes, we all agree that there are opportunities. When we drill down to races, African Americans do not agree with that statement. And then also regarding the biracial and multicultural residents population is on the 50-50, so right on the edge of basically agreeing and disagreeing, and all other races, 53% or more agree that communities provide opportunities for everyone. And then the next chart is similarly complex, showing now comparisons across generations. So in the first section, you can see that over 70% across generations feel that there is a strong sense of community. Interestingly enough, boomers, who are basically one of the oldest generations in our communities, have the largest percentage disagreeing with that one. And in the next chart, over 76% across all generations are involved in the community. Again, the least involved, 24% of them are the boomers, that older generation. And then finally, in the third chart, we can see how residents feel, and especially the survey participants feel about individual impact on the community. And here, every one of the generations feel really strong about their individual impact on the community. But the strongest in this trend is the millennials. They feel that their individual contribution and impact is very significant on communities. Now, in the next section, we are getting into the part where not just the survey data, which is the quantitative data were analyzed, but also the qualitative part as well. So for every conversation, we provided 5 questions. And these 5 questions were there for the on-the-table participants to inspire the conversation. These were, the first one, what brought you to the table? The second one, what are your hopes for the community now and in the long term? Third, what are the positive qualities or characteristics of our community? How can we leverage those attributes to strengthen our community? And then the third one, what does our community need and what can we do individually and collectively to address those needs? And then finally, the fifth was, what are some potential solutions to the problems we identified today? So most of the responses, in case of some tables where the participants were willing to provide some of these written responses, which they discussed also over some meal. So for the first question, here is a sample of what kind of written response we got. Want to get back involved in the community after a hiatus. Was pleasantly surprised by the opportunity to collaborate and share. So this is a positive reaction and a positive participation. And in the next question, which is, what are your hopes? One of the responses was, it's on the now and on the long-term basis. Now, smart growth and environmental protection. On the long term, to grow the area but maintain that smallish town feel where all still come together and support and community feel. So that was kind of the second answer or sample answer. And then for the third question, which was regarding the positive qualities and characteristics in our community, we live in a paradise. Everybody is nice, huge resources of skills, finances, and talent to collaborate, including water resources, beaches, and then the leverage by reaching out and limiting the cliquish behaviors, emphasize the need to give back and collaborate. So that was the third sample answer. And then the fourth was more diversity in food, art, music, entertainment, and more support for such diversity. Support communities of color and bring them to table. Bring more diverse arts to events. So we didn't really get too many of the fifth, so there is no sample for that one particularly. So these were some of the answers in general for the first 4 questions. And then in the last chart, we show regarding the open-ended responses, and then we analyze those open-ended responses by coding the most frequently mentioned notions or concepts. So based on that, based on those open-ended responses to this question, there were several areas of emphasis that many respondents brought up. One of these areas was quality of life. Participants expressed their opinion from the viewpoint of improving quality and protecting quality and equitable provision of quality of life. In connection to quality of life and independently emphasized by the number of respondents also was the notion of help others. This concept came up in various contexts, including help youth, next generation, help vulnerable people, and help because of disadvantaged economic or social status. Thank you for your attention.